Hello and welcome to Your Health Reclaimed with DrPND, where we help you reclaim your health with tips, tools, and resources to live your most optimal and vibrant life. Here's your host, DrPND.
Hello and welcome to Your Health Reclaimed. This is your host, Dr. PND. I hope everyone here that is listening had a phenomenal Merry Christmas and holiday seasons and a very happy New Year. With that being said, I really hope that all of you guys are back on board and track on working on your health goals. And hopefully a lot of you guys have some new and exciting health and fitness goals that you will be working on in the new year. I know most certainly I do. I know a lot of people are surprised to hear that from Ashley and I, but the reality of the journey is that we always keep learning. We can always keep improving. And that really is the most exciting aspect of it. Ultimately, all of us are aging. I'm approaching 50 and, my wife is mid-40s now. And, the fact is that, we definitely are seeing the aging process developing. But that's exciting. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can actually be a good thing. So aging gracefully, in the most optimal, healthy way possible is exciting. And a lot of our goals have shifted, to that. So I really hope that you guys think about your health goals for this, new year. And with excitement, enthusiasm, and joy, you guys are able to start to attain those goals and work towards them. So anyway, today, we are going to kick off the new year with a sort of a big podcast. I'll see how we're doing on time because I know I need to keep that podcast to less than an hour. But if we do not get through all the stuff, I can perhaps partition it and make a part two, of that series. So today we're going to talk about a very popular topic, which I deal with a lot, especially the last couple of years, last year especially, has been drastically been increasing. And that is the topic of ultimately the GLP-1 medications, the GLP-1 protocols, and anything and everything related to that. So as you guys know, these are very hot topics, very popular, rightfully so. A lot of people use the ozempics and the wagovys and any of those GLP, like medications that are hopefully helping them to, lose weight. And, bigger hope yet for those people not to get, bad side effects, let alone lasting damage to those medications. But nonetheless, these are what we're going to be talking about today. There'll be basically four topics that I'd like to address today. The first will be the hidden effects, what's called the medications and the impact on your GI tract. Obviously, those include the GLP-like medications for a good reason, but there's also other very common medications that people get damaged all the time. The second topic will be I want to discuss briefly 4 botanicals that promote normal, healthy GLP-1 production naturally, and also another topic brief will be the 3 compounds that are needed for optimal insulin metabolism. So if you notice, all those have to do with obviously metabolic health, which a big part of that is improved and healthy insulin sensitivity, addressing any insulin resistance, lowering and stabilizing blood sugar, and improving metabolic health. And the fourth topic, which I'm going to save for last, and again, if I can get to that, we'll do a second part. We're going to talk about the GLP protocols that we use. So they are not GLP protocols regarding alternative for medications. I work with patients that are on GLP medications and or have gotten off GLP medications due to severe side effects, and or just it was time for them to get off, either because they lost the weight or because at that point they were due to again side effects or any combination, they were advised by the physicians to get off of them. And I'm going to discuss how I work with those folks and the support that I give them. Obviously, everybody's different. There's a lot of individual customizational, aspects of those, protocols. But I want to share, with folks what is the just and the basic supports systems that, I use with folks that are taking the GLP-1 medications and the ones that have gotten off. So let's go ahead and get started. We don't waste any time, and hopefully we'll be able to get through all of those 4 topics today successfully. So the first one, like we talked about, is the hidden effects of medications and their impact on the GI tract. A variety of medications, as you guys know, can disrupt the lining and the function of the gastrointestinal tract and cause GI complaints and heavy symptoms. They can mimic certain conditions such as inflammatory bowel disease and irritable bowel syndrome and so forth. Medications, can produce these symptoms by altering gastrointestinal physiology, increasing tissue toxicity, or interacting with the intestinal microbiota, and also changing the intestinal natural microbiota. So from clinical perspective, it may be helpful to distinguish between medication-induced GI symptoms and IBD or IBS in order to identify, optimal treatment strategies. But for example, medications that may have an impact on the GI microbiome, and as they say, I say may, it's really, I should say, will and do have impact. These are going to include antibiotics, proton pump inhibitors, whether over the counter or prescription, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and steroids, especially like prednisones and any of those like drugs. These are the ones that I see, and research validates that. But I personally, in my practice, see these, 4 classes of drugs that really cause the biggest problems, the biggest damage. Oftentimes, people are prescribed those, 2, 3, or even all 4 at the same time for whatever reason. The physician decides to do so, or a lot of times you have different physicians for different specialties prescribing things, and the person comes to me with a polypharmacy that is taking, a lot of those medications and then some. So, they do cause a lot of problems. There's no doubt about that. Sometimes they definitely are needed, especially antibiotic, can be life-saving in certain situations. The prednisone, that is a very strong catabolic steroid. It can, that too can be life-saving in certain instances. But the majority of the time, they are either overprescribed, overused, or they're just used indiscriminately and are not needed in the first place. So they do cause damage. So just think, if you're taking any of those classes, really just speak to your physician, ask him if you really need to be taking those, and if there's any other alternatives that are milder, or if you can get off of those. So anyway, the GI microbiome consists of a large number of microorganisms that are associated with complex metabolic processes. It truly is a very, very complex universe in there. The human, microbiome, research field is insane. You can spend months and months and months digging and researching and seeing. If you understand biochemistry, molecular, biology, you'll be amazed at the amount of information and research has gone into that and still going. But it's a very, very complex metabolic process. So antibiotic use, has been obviously associated with dysbiosis of the microbiota, because antibiotics are indiscriminate. They will kill the good and the bad. Antibiotics, do negatively impact the beneficial diversity also of the GI microbiome, in both adults and children. The amount of antibiotics, the duration of the antibiotics, the cumulative frequency of use of antibiotics all contribute to the degree of damage that they'll produce in a human being. So, it's not just a one-time round of antibiotics. It could be smaller rounds, lower, doses over a long period of time that infrequently prescribed. It's a cumulative effect. That's why it's essential, excuse me, when you use an antibiotic, to immediately start a proper antibiotic damage control protocol, and then continue that protocol for at least 4 weeks after the discontinuation of antibiotics. But that can be perhaps a discussion for another topic. So the short-term GI effects of antibiotics use, maybe can include like a CLA in your GMAP test that I run. So it's C. diff, infection, diarrhea, gastritis, bloating, intestinal pain, and compromised intestinal barrier function. So prolonged use of antibiotics, you can see the development of antimicrobial resistance, and also IBS, very heavy IBS, which ultimately can turn into IBD. IBS is inflammatory bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome, and IBD is inflammatory bowel disease. That's completely different. That's the next step after IBS. When things progressively get worse, it goes into inflammatory bowel disease of some kind, like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. Obviously, these are the very extremes of IBD, but it can be a lot milder forms as well. So there is definitely prolonged use of, damage that happens, and it almost always does to some degree. So the other medications, the proton pump inhibitors or PPIs, these can be prescribed or taken over the counter, both, and are used obviously for the management of occasional chronic heartburn. Because they work by suppression of gastric acid secretion, that's what ultimately they do. They also will impact the GI microbiota by reducing its diversity and also leading to increased incidence of GI infections, such as those triggered by C. diff, Salmonella, Campylobacter, other GI pathogens. Because one of the things that the gastric juices do, the hydrochloric acid, it kills pathogens. Okay, aside from helping with digestion, it is responsible. It's kind of like your first line of defense after you swallow food. And when that acid is suppressed or is not strong enough, guess what? It becomes much easier for somebody to acquire a foodborne illness or a pathogen from somewhere. I see it all the time. The usual transmission is going to be some kind of fecal matter, which I know sounds nasty, but that's the reality. That's why restaurants are very heavy on washing hands, and that's why I see signs in the bathrooms that employees must wash hands. That this is exactly why, because ultimately somebody wipes, and guess what? They don't wash thoroughly or not at all, and they go and they handle your food. Well, guess what? If you don't have a strong immune system and a strong, healthy acid production and secretion, you become insanely prone to foodborne illness. Anyway, so prolonged use of PPIs has been associated with impaired nutrient absorption and an increased likelihood also of H. pylori, which colonizes the stomach, and which can lead to actually hypergastrinemia. So it's like a chicken and the egg, and they both can come. One time the chicken, one time the egg came first. It's a vicious cycle. So they really do damage. That's why PPIs really, if you have to use a PPI, aside from very short-term use just to get under control in the pain, you should be fixing your gut. You should be working with a functional healthcare provider who practices root cause medicine, functional medicine, whatever you want to call it, and address the root cause of it. As a matter of fact, even if you start feeling like on a regular basis, you're starting to have even small heartburn, because it doesn't happen out of nowhere. You can start seeing symptoms even before it starts to happen. Immediately try to address that with a functional GI specialist, because it will cause you problems in the long term. And a lot of people get addicted to PPIs, and they use them for months, years, decades. And I can absolutely vouch, with the information that is out there about what I'm just reading, and also obviously from my personal and professional experience, they will cause damage. So think about using PPIs. Work with a specialist that can help you address the root cause of the problem as soon as possible, because it's not going to end well. I promise you that. So the third class of drugs we talked about is the NSAIDs, or the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and these comprise another class of medications that may impact, depending on severity of use, frequency, intensity, duration, that almost always they will impact the GI. Not taking a Tylenol once, twice, 5 times a year, or taking aspirin, a few times a year, that's not going to do anything, of course. But is the regular or semi-regular use or very high intensity used at high dosing for a short period of time that will cause those issues. So they do, the NSAIDs do impact the GI microbiome composition as well, and the expansion of opportunistic bacteria through unintended toxicity. That's something a lot of people do not know. That's why I work with people with GI issues, and I run a test called GI Map. We always look for opportunistic bacteria. That test is one of the only tests, I think there's maybe one or two other tests like that actually look for opportunistic bacteria. Because when those opportunistic bacteria are present and start to grow into the pathogenic limits, they do produce toxins. So these are endotoxins that are produced in the GI, and that's what happens with the unintended toxicity from the NSAID use. Gastrointestinal complaints with the NSAIDs are always associated with the use of them with things like heartburn, reflux, dyspepsia, bloating, nausea, abdominal pain, diarrhea, constipation, ulcers, and a lot of times gastrointestinal bleeding. So it's not good. It's not good, and a lot of people take those medications, they pop them in like bread mints, like candy, literally, all day long. Not to mention, especially not Tylenol, but ibuprofen, it reduces actual kidney function and capacity of the kidney to function while you're using that. Luckily, it gets resolved very quickly after discontinuation, but it definitely affects that. A lot of people have obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. Their kidneys are not working the best. They're strained. They're overworked. The last thing you want to do is add more insult to the injury. And that's why you can go into renal failure if, there are other issues that are involved and you take enough of those. I used to have, over the years, clients that were emergency room physicians, and one of the most often poison that people will come in with, unintentional poisoning, was Tylenol, because it really affects the liver and also NSAIDs. So they'll have to give them medications to clear those out of the system very quickly. But again, NSAIDs cause damage. So the other ones we talked about here are the weight loss medications, such as the glucagon-like peptides. RA are the sense for receptor agonists, like the Wegovy and the ozempic and such. And these work by mimicking the GLP-1 hormone, so which is released by the gastrointestinal mucosa after somebody consumes a meal, and signals ultimately to the pancreas to produce more insulin while suppressing glucagon secretion. When insulin is up, glucagon is down, and vice versa. Those are always dependent. Even back 30 years ago, we knew that was actually one of the fundamental basis theory for optimizing fat loss. You have to lower and stabilize blood sugar and insulin, keep insulin way low, in control, and that is when body fat starts to drop. And that's when glucagon is high. So this is how those medications work in a nutshell. So you have a lot of meta-analysis studies examining the effects of GLP-1 RAs, okay, and reported associated GI disturbances such as nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, is not uncommon. There was a study just recently here based on the FDA adverse event reporting system that found that GLP-1 were associated with increased risk of gastrointestinal system disorders, including gastroesophageal reflux, GERD, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, upper abdominal pain, gastritis, PESOR, breath odor, pancreatitis, an intra-abdominal hematoma, along with very interrupted and downregulated bowel motility. And that happens with those medications because it affects the mitigating migrating complex. MMC is called, and that is how efficiently the peristalsis function. This is the contraction of the muscular contraction of your intestines that propels the food down through your intestines. Opioids affect that very badly. That's why constipation with chronic opioid use is very, very common side effect. And with GLP medications as well. So a lot of people, unfortunately, take opioids of some kind, and I'm talking legally, not necessarily illegally, just legally prescribed, and then add GLP to that, and it just recipe for disaster. And one of the worst side effects, aside from things like the intra-abdominal hematoma, honestly, is the shutdown of the mitigating migraine complex, the peristalsis movement of the gastrointestinal system. And having that shut off, you're not moving food. And so this is one of the long-term dangerous side effects of those medications. Anyway, we're going to go with GLP-1s more here, but let's see if we investigate, can nutrients support those with medication-induced GI complaints? The answer is yes. Obviously, nutrition and lifestyle are your foundational basis, and those will reign supreme, obviously. But I understand that a lot of people are not willing to give up their garbage, and then they're not willing to change their lifestyle or diet. So the ones that I'm going to discuss, these nutrients, they're natural nutrients, benign nutrients, no side effects. This can be implemented regarding whether you have a clean diet or not. Even if somebody who doesn't have a clean diet, they'll be able to help themselves at least slow down the inevitable, just to get extra support. So there are certain amino acids, botanicals, functional foods, and minerals, vitamins that offer support for GI health and function, and can help to mitigate some of the GI effects associated with the medications that I just mentioned, among other medications that also do damage. One of them is the simple L-glutamine powder. Okay, glutamine is an amino acid, is the most abundant free amino acid in the human body, and may play a very important role in overall health as an intermediary in energy metabolism, and glutathione, neurotransmitter, and nucleotide synthesis. Basically, it's important. In times of illness, glutamine may help significantly reduce as intestinal, immune, and renal cells utilize substantial amounts of it. So when your body is stressed by default, whether from too much training, burn, illnesses, the amino acid requirement of the human body goes up very drastic. This is why when somebody's very sick, very ill, and especially they don't eat, they start to drop weight extremely fast. And that is not so much water, it is because the body starts to catabolize muscle tissue, because there's the fastest, quickest, and most abundant supply of amino acids to the body. So one of the things that glutamine does, because of the very high utilization rate under stress, then it's very good amino acid to be taken regardless. I use that with my clients all the time for recovery from GI issues. Okay, all the time. I use it myself because it really helps with recovery from bouts of heavy training. And generally speaking, when you're under stress, and that also includes heavy chronic psychological stress, your requirements are going to go up. Okay, so in the GI tract, glutamine plays an important role in maintaining intestinal permeability barrier function and supporting a healthy inflammatory response and intestinal cell proliferation and differentiation. Basically, it's very healthy for the intestinal barrier function. Okay, so a lot of people that have leaky gut or intestinal barrier permeability, aka leaky gut, glutamine is essential for that. Okay, so glutamine is usually cheap. There's obviously it's everywhere, but make sure you're getting a micronized clinical grade. If somebody is, if you're just an athlete, give or take, any glutamine is going to do. But if you're dealing with health issue, make sure that you're using a very pure micronized product, glutamine. I use either Physica Energetica or Body Health or Designs for Health, mostly Designs for Health because they have a couple of different sizes that are very economical. But glutamine is one of them. Second, Mucins. So these represent a family of glycoproteins that are secreted primarily by the intestinal epithelial cells and may play a very important role in mucosal protection and communication with external environments. Basically, they coat the intestinal lining and help support the colonization of health-promoting intestinal microbes. These are the good guys, which protect against epithelial cell injury, such as celiac disease and inflammation. And they also serve as a lubricant to aid the passage of materials through the GI tract. Mucins are found, like licorice, for example, is a form of natural mucin that can be taken. And there are other ones that have very, very, beneficial properties. And those can be taken on a daily basis. Aloe vera also has a lot of mucins in there as well. There's combination. I use a couple of products that have a combination of probably 4 or 5 different mucin types. So mucins are very important. Okay, that kind of protects your GI lining, makes everything go smoother. Definitely will help with constipation. So the third one is the botanicals that can support the intestinal lining. And those include mucilaginous nutrients, such as those found in okra, marshmallow, slippery elm, licorice again, and again, aloe vera. The mucilaginous compounds, they also can contribute to the healing process of ulcerative conditions. They support nutrient metabolism, healthy inflammatory response, and cellular health in general. They also display prebiotic effects and promote microbiome diversity and growth and the production of short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate. They also hinder the adherence of H. pylori to the stomach lining, which is very important, and exhibit also what's called natural broad-spectrum antimicrobial properties. Basically, they're just natural antibiotics. So those taken together, again, very beneficial. They have no side effects. They will not interfere with any medications, and they will not interfere with anything else that you might be doing. But they'll only help. So when your okra is phenomenal. That's why if you notice, for instance, when you cook okra, especially if you steam it, it becomes slimy. That's the polysaccharide formation of those mucilaginous components that are part of it. Marshmallow root, slippery elm, again, licorice, you can use those in tea, but eating those in some form or taking into a powdered extract or form is the best way. Aloe vera juice also works really well, or eating, the inner leaf. There are actually companies that will make aloe vera juice. It's non-pasteurized, cold extracted, that is actually blended with the meat, inside meat of the aloe vera plant. Again, these are natural things that you can do today to start to support your GI and feel better. So give that a try. Important. The other nutrient that I'm going to talk about is what's called N-acetylglucosamine. This is actually an amino acid sugar that supports gastrointestinal function in immune health. There are several species of gastrointestinal microbiome in the microbiome. Basically, they can release N-acetylglucosamine into the intestinal lumen, where it does support mucosal health in the GI lining. It also provides nutrients for commensal bacteria and reduces biofilm formation of certain invasive bacterial strains. That usually is one of the top supplements, and I use that in combination with a lot of other things to heal leaky gut or intestinal permeability. It is extremely important. It's very powerful, works really well, but something, again, even if you don't have the money to do the testing or work with a specialist, if you have GI issues, you'll do well if you take all those that I'm listing on this podcast. Take them for 3 to 6 months and see how it goes. You can't do anything wrong. Worst comes to worst, you just spend a little bit of money, which they're not expensive at all. But you will feel better, I promise you that. So these are simple things, again, that you can do that can have a great effect on that. The other nutrient is called Zinc L-Carnosine. It's not just zinc. Don't confuse it just like zinc orotate or zinc glycinate or any of the other ones. It's Zinc L-Carnosine. It is a form of zinc that is combined with amino acid L-carnosine and in a 1-to-1 ratio for increased bioavailability and absorption. That's the key. It stabilizes the gut mucosa and membrane. It helps support gastric tissue integrity. It promotes healthy inflammatory response and antioxidant status, and also supports overall gastrointestinal function. So zinc L-carnosine, very important. The other one, citrus pectins. These support healthy inflammatory responses, antioxidant status, and immune and cellular health in general. They have oligosaccharides. Ultimately, that's what they are. And they are derived from citrus pectin, which is classified as non-digestible carbohydrates, but it helps support immunometabolism, healthy inflammatory response, and optimal GI microbiome composition and diversity, including the formation of health-supportive metabolites such as short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. That's why in a lot of my programs, I prescribe either butyrate supplement or more often high-quality, truly grass-fed organic butter, because butter is extremely healing to the GI lining as long as obviously you're allergic to it or have sensitivity to it. But butter, among many other things, is very high naturally in butyrate, which is a form of a short-chain fatty acids. Anyway, moving on, the other nutrient that are very cheap, very readily available is prune, like the fruit prune. Why? Well, prunes contain phytonutrients that promote normal GI motility and regularity. That's why a lot of people drink prune juice or soak prunes in water to help them with the bathroom. Okay, they also promote microbiome diversity and healthy bowel function without any potential negative effects of harsh laxatives, including natural laxatives, which over time, if they're harsh ones, they can cause dependence to a point. They also contain high amounts of sorbitol and chlorogenic acids that help maintain optimal gastric function. So these are the surprising nutrients that are really, really good for you guys to implement. So I'll go over them real quick. Prunes, citrus pectin, zinc L-carnosine, N-acetylglucosamine, botanicals such as okra, marshmallow, slippery elm, licorice, and aloe vera, mucins. You can probably go on Amazon and just Google mucins for digestive health, and also glutamine, L-glutamine powder. You guys can go on, email me or go on my store, and you'll be able to see all the products that I use. A lot of those are very comprehensive formulations that include all of them, or majority of them, depending on the product. So it can be easily taken as a powder or as a easily swallowed capsule, because some people I know they can't eat that. But if you have any questions, just email me and I'll send you the link exactly to what those products are. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the 4 botanicals that promote normal GLP natural production. All right. Give or take 75% of the American adult population aged 20 years and older now, as of last year, is overweight or obese and morbidly obese. Children, unfortunately, are really not far behind. And there are about 56% of children and adolescents between the ages of 2 and 19 years are obese. So 75% of adults and 56% of children. Guys, this is staggering. This is sad. That is not supposed to be that way. It is not normal. That just hurts me just reading that. So we got to get our act together as a nation, and we have to fix this. Okay, and I promise you, unfortunately, GLP medications, as promising as they said, that will not save that problem. They will not solve that problem. Anyway, so obesity is a risk factor. Obviously, everybody knows that, for numerous chronic health conditions, such as cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, mellitus, cancer, osteoarthritis, liver, kidney diseases, and on it goes. As obesity trends unfortunately continue to rise, interventions from the medical community are expected to bring relief. But common medications, again, they have been on the market for years now, including ozempic, wagovy, Mounjaro, have made their names as effective treatments for obesity and type 2 diabetes. Recently, these drugs, have soared in popularity for their use, as you all know, and are useful as weight loss agents. Basically, these drugs have become so popular that prescription fills increased by more than 400% in nationwide between January of 2021 and December of 2023. I can only imagine what last year's numbers are. So these prescription medications obviously classified as, like I said, glucagon-like peptides, receptor agonists, which mimic your hormone naturally produced by the body, which is GLP-1. So these hormones bind to the same receptors as a GLP-1 and cause ultimately similar action, although not the same, which in this case helps manage normal insulin and blood glucose metabolism. But notice I said manage, not treat, not heal. Okay, just you're managing a symptom. The damage is still going to be there. Anyway, these drugs, also can help manage appetite. Some people, everybody's different. It doesn't matter if it's a supplement or a drug. We all are different, so some people can experience great benefit from one thing, not so much from the other person. But generally speaking, they do help to manage appetite pretty well. People always ask me, is there anything natural? No. These drugs are powerful. Do not be mistaken one bit. That is why they're effective. That's why, meaning effective in losing weight, and and primarily the reason for that is appetite suppression, because they really make you not hungry. Aside from just lowering insulin, and they that's ultimately promotes feeling of satiety. So when you're hungry, guess what? You don't eat. And that's why short term, in an unhealthy way, they are very effective for losing weight. The devil is always in details. And I just said, if you notice, what I said was they're very effective in appetite suppression and losing weight, but in a non-sustainable and very unhealthy way. Okay, we'll get to that later. So anyway, these drugs are effective. That's just the bottom line. Now, considering the side effects, the high costs, and the route of administration via injections, alternatives to these GLP medications obviously, may be preferred for some people. Let me be very frank with you. As much as I would like to say that they are equivalents of natural substances like herbs and vitamins and minerals, they're not. If somebody else is telling you that, they're lying to you. Now, mind you, I'm a naturopath and I'm biased towards natural medicine by default. But I'm sitting here literally telling you that there's not a single plant or vitamin or mineral or anything even equivalent, close to, or a combination of those, that is going to give you the effect the GLP-1 medication is going to give you. So do not be deceived. Okay, yes, I'll tell you, don't use those GLP medications, fix your diet, start sensible exercise, and you will permanently and sustainably, healthily lose weight, okay, in the right way. But most of you are not going to do that, and I respect that. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, I will not sit here and lie to you and tell you that those medications are not effective and there's equivalent medications. I mean, natural supplements that are equivalent. There's not. So let me be very blatantly clear about that. So you want to use those medications, chances are you're going to get great effect out of it. That's just the reality. So with that out of the way, there are, 4 clinically researched botanicals, which one of those actually that we discussed, they made metformin from. And yes, they definitely have an effect on appetite and also on lowering and stabilizing blood sugar and insulin improvement. However, the key is the details. Just because they're clinically proven, and that is true, it does not mean that they're realistically effective. So let's take a hypothetical example. And I've seen this before. I have a client, they just strictly wanted to do weight loss, couldn't fix their diet, couldn't get all the garbage in the processed food. They're severely addicted, like all people are. And they implemented the strategies and natural strategies that I suggested to them because they want to give it a fair shot before they had to go to medication. They improved, no doubt. Blood work showed improvement. They lost a little bit of weight. Appetite definitely decreased. But just to give you a realistic example, truthful example, the natural way maybe got them about a 5% improvement. Okay. And when they went to the ozempic medication, they get 90% improvement. So this is where truth has to be respected and always told, for either side. Yes, if somebody says, oh, there are alternative things, well, technically, clinically researched, yes, there are. But what is 5% as opposed to 90%? Even if it was 50%, that's still a massive difference in improvement as opposed to. So her numbers in reality were actually 11%. That was the truth. Okay. And when I say improvement, I'm talking about fructosamine, A1C, hemoglobin, fasting, insulin, fasting, glucose, the HOMAR test. And basically, again, in weight loss, percent of body weight loss when she engaged, little. And with the medication, it was insane. So yeah, those medications do pretty much, again, not everybody gets the same effects. There's other factors, people's metabolisms, people's genetic makeup, how they process stuff, but obviously those medications work. But they are. So for those people that want to know what those are, I'm going to go over them. In addition to that, if you don't have a lot of weight to lose, or you don't want to lose any weight, but you do have your blood sugar is on the higher side or is starting to border on the high side, these are great alternatives first to be used for about 6 months before jumping onto any medication. So even if you don't want to lose weight, you're not diabetic, you're not even pre-diabetic, but your blood sugar is creeping up, or perhaps you are actually crossed over the pre-diabetes mark, try these, okay? Because they'll most likely help, and they'll have no side effects. In fact, they have other benefits. So here they are. The first one is the Berberine. Berberine is highly regarded for its efficacy in supporting blood glucose regulation and healthy insulin metabolism. There's a lot of evidence that indicates berberine may play a supportive role in the reduction of numerous markers of metabolic dysfunction. That includes fasting blood glucose, hemoglobin A1C, low-density lipoprotein, triglycerides, and also fasting insulin. That is very true. Again, if you don't have much to go, that's a great alternative. Berberine is also a very good natural broad-spectrum antimicrobial on top of that. So it helps you from keep you getting healthy, not getting sick, especially from foodborne illness. Sometimes when people take berberine, if they have dysbiosis or some kind of pathogenicity, they might get GI symptoms like bloating and gas because they're killing off the bad bacteria or any pathogens they're going to kill off. So berberine is always used in natural digestive health as part of a broad spectrum antimicrobial. It's just a side effect to it. But in clinical and clinical settings and also in vitro studies, you have seen that those things work. Now, in vitro studies, it suggests that a proposed mechanism in which berberine may support metabolic health is its potential ability to facilitate natural GLP-1 secretion by your own body, which is phenomenal. There are two berberine metabolites. One is berberine, BBB, and palmitine, PMT. Who cares? But have been reported to have significant pharmacological effects on GLP-1, namely increasing the production again of GLP-1 peptide in the cells that are studied. So berberine's efficacy is attributed to the increased insulin secretion receptor expression. Again, naturally stimulates secretion, which ultimately brings the blood sugar down, and that brings your also secretes natural glucagon, like your glucagon. So the berberine, it regulates glucose metabolism pretty efficiently, again, by supporting GLP-1 receptor production and inhibiting the GLP-1 breakdown, which obviously by default, to some form or another, will support insulin response to any meal. And ultimately, again, this is the basis of how those medications work. That's why when people want to get truly healthy naturally, you do that very, very quickly, very efficiently, and works for everybody, is when you have a healthy diet, what that is healthy for you, added with healthy amount of exercise, whatever that is for you, and you ultimately cause the body to, one, increase metabolism and efficacy of metabolism, but you're bringing down to healthy levels, healthy low levels blood glucose, and you're also bringing down, stabilizing insulin by increasing also insulin sensitivity. And that naturally brings glucagon up, and you stay more satiated, and you start to shed body fat very, very quickly, very efficiently. One of the GLP medication side effects is ultimately forced starvation, because when you don't have appetite, you lose. A lot of people don't know that, yes, they lose a lot of body fat, but they also become or can become chronically dehydrated. And also they lose muscle mass, precious muscle mass. And one of the side effects of that is when they do get off those medications, their metabolism is shot, is very well downregulated. Their basal metabolic rate is drastically decreased. And that is primarily because of their muscle mass has drastically decreased. That's why you have what they call GLP-1 face and body, and this kind of this sunken in, flabby, soppy look, especially people that have lost a lot of weight, that lost the muscle. This kind of looks like, some of them look like a skeleton with skin on. It's nasty. No healthy. Aside from the fact that it looks horrible, but it's not. So there's a lot. Just, again, we'll talk about this in a little bit, hopefully. So the other one is the Fenugreek plant. Okay, Fenugreek has a long history of medicinal use in India and China, especially. And it contains compounds that act in various ways to support normal glucose and insulin metabolism. I'm not going to go into the whys, but just remember Fenugreek extract. Look for a standardized extract. Again, reach out to me. I have really good products. Gaia Herbs makes a phenomenal Fenugreek liquid extract, which they extract by liquid carbon dioxide gas. Is really effective way to extract, very clean way to extract and concentrate, a plant compound into a medicinal, strength. But Fenugreek is amazing. The other one is a basic American ginseng. It contains active compounds called saponins, and those support metabolic, immune, neurological, and cardiovascular health. That's why ginseng is being used in many ways, from Western to Eastern medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, you name it, for a very long time. Everybody has heard of ginseng. So one of the things that ginseng works really well is supports how body handles sugar and fat, and by supporting how insulin hormone called leptin work. So you have a lot of studies showing that when subjects were given ginseng, they exhibited lower blood sugar and fat amounts after just 4 weeks. No diet changes or anything. So, again, these findings are also linked with higher amounts of GLP-1. Especially in humans, systemic review and beta analysis recently here, we saw that patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus who were given daily ginseng for 12 weeks experienced drastically improved glucose control and insulin metabolism compared just to the control. So similar results and experiences, seen quite a bit for at least 20 years that I can look at. But ginseng, American ginseng, very effective for that. There's also, by the way, formulas that contain all of those that I'm going to go over. It's simple to take, easy to take. Not that you have to actually prepare it. The other medication is called Gymnema, like a Gymnema, And it's actually is known as the literally destroyer of sugar in Hindi. And this herb plant has been used for at least 2,000 years to treat what back then was known as the metha or honey urine. And that's obviously a classic sign of sugar dysregulation issues and ultimately diabetes. But as recent as 2021, there was a massive study published that investigated whether supplementation with Genema would affect blood sugar control. And this is a very tightly controlled, clinical study, which also combined the results from other different 10 studies with 419 people who had already established type 2 diabetes. So the groups given daily Genema supplementation, 400 milligrams, actually all the way up to 10 grams, which is 10,000 milligrams, so 21 days, anyway, from 21 days up to 20 months, exhibited drastically lower fasting blood sugar and lower blood sugar after meals, and ultimately lower A1C hemoglobin compared to where they started before. So there was not a study in a control group. This was actually people compared to before. So they were sick with type 2 diabetes. They were not controlled. They started the Genea, and they saw those improvements. Again, do not be mistaken. It does not have the power as somebody that has to use insulin. You're not going to replace insulin injections. If you're that bad, it's not going to press. This is just illustrating a point that improves things. That's why for people who are, the blood sugar is normal, but it's creeping up, very cheap and easy way to get hold of that and reverse that. People that are just crossing over the line to pre-diabetes, that again is a very cheap and easy way to stop and reverse that. So, just keep that in mind, keep that in perspective. So Genema is really, really effective on MACE. And it really all those can make a difference. When those things are used in combination with each other, they actually have a synergistic effect. So basically, these 4 botanicals really offer promising benefits to support overall metabolic health. And they support blood sugar control and healthy insulin function through just mechanisms that are very similar to the GLP-1 RA medications. So with fewer complaints, if any, and other added health benefits. Then when I say complaints, sometimes some people, like I said, the berberine, it can cause gas and bloating if somebody has dysbiosis and or has any kind of pathogens in the GI. But there's no side effects. So there's a difference between the little complaints of gas and bloat, for example, as opposed to actual like a major side effect. So they're completely safe. They're very cheap, readily available, and make a difference. Now, I always say this. There's a reason why I use nutraceuticals companies that specialize in clinical grade supplements. Because supplements are not regulated, and when you buy stuff, and people usually always go for the cheapest stuff on Amazon, you don't know what you're buying. And also, you're not guaranteed the strength. If it says 400 milligrams, for example, it might be only 150 milligrams, but nobody regulates that, so nobody cares. So a lot of times when people use supplements, they say, well, it didn't work. Well, yeah, it didn't work because you didn't use it right. And also, you don't know what you're getting. So you might think you're getting an X amount of milligrams per day, but truly you're only getting maybe a third of that, which obviously doesn't have any clinical benefit to you. So use high quality supplements. Don't be cheap. Okay, it's worth spending a little more than and knowing that you're getting the good stuff, clinically proven effective stuff, pure stuff, hypoallergenic, product that is very clean, very pure, very thorough, and is accurate. Then saving a few dollars and getting nothing. So, anyway, but as the interest in alternative medicine grows, these plants will provide effective adjuncts for those seeking to manage metabolic health holistically, at least to some degree or another. So we're gonna have to save the GLP-1 and GLP-2 protocols that I was going to talk about for next time because we're running out of time. But I just wanted to finish with the 3, simple, surprising compounds that are needed for optimal insulin metabolism. So those 3 things that I'm going to name, you can add to the 4 ones I just spoke about. And if you actually look at high quality supplement formulations from nutraceutical clinical nutraceutical companies, you'll see a lot of those in tandem with each other in formulations, some containing most of them, all of them, or at least some combination in between, because all those work synergistically together. But again, when blood glucose amounts increase, as is the case, in response to a meal, insulin, as we all know, acts as the key to unlock the cell, allowing glucose to enter. That's what basically happens. So glucose is then used by the cell, specifically the mitochondria, to create cellular energy, known as ADP or adenosine triphosphate, like so ATP, which fuels nearly all cellular activities in our body. That's why metabolic health is extremely important. That's why cellular health. Some people would say mitochondrial health. That's more specific because the mitochondria is the powerhouse, sort of the electric generator of the cell. That hinges on everything. So if people have metabolic disease, their cellular function, cellular energy production, and management and handling is lowered, is reduced. The capacity is reduced. Okay, it's like having an old circuitry wiring in the house that you can only use low voltage, tools or equipment or cooking utensils, and you can't use a few things at the same time. Like you can't use a pressure cooker, a heater, and a dryer while the water heater at the same time are running. In a new home that is healthy, electrically wired properly, electricity is flowing optimally, you can use all that. You can use 5 hair dryers, nothing will happen. But when you have faulty wiring and old energy depleting wiring, just like the body, the energy of the body is not there. And that's why you see a lot of people that are tired, they don't feel good, they don't want to do a lot of stuff. So the ATP is extremely important, and mitochondrial health is the pinnacle of that. So just keep that in mind. So anyway, when the body, cells become resistant to the action of insulin, because prediabetes, before that happens, you have insulin resistance. It's just a common symptom of metabolic syndrome, what they call, or other related metabolic conditions, like, for example, polycystic ovarian syndrome or type 2 diabetes. Energy production ultimately has been impaired without fail. So from the moment the food is eaten to the point of energy production, countless biological processes happen seamlessly. Now, these reactions rely on nutrients that are called cofactors, like vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and so forth, to ensure that each step occurs. Now, inside and outside the cell is a microscopic world, literally teeming with intricate machinery that enables the cell to survive, adapt, and respond to its environment. The healthier those mechanisms are, the healthier and more adaptive you become, and ultimately, the fewer issues you have, and the better you feel. That's all it boils down to. The receptors at the cell surface, reach out like little antennas. They literally gather information and sensing its outer world. So internally, cellular machinery called organelles collaborate to ensure energy production required for survival. Just as machines rely on fuel and maintenance, biochemical processes are sustained by specific nutrients that act as fuel for these complex pathways. That is why I always talk about nutrition. Why? Because when you eat nutrition, healthy, proper, high-quality, nutrient-dense foods, they have those specific nutrients like the vitamins and minerals and the oxidants and other biochemicals that help to sustain, support cellular energy production. So although many vitamins and minerals, again, nutrients may support energy and insulin metabolism, there are 3 naturally occurring supplements that really can be added to the diet on top of everything. They can make a big difference. So I know I kind of went off a tangent here, a little lesson, but I just want people have a hard time understanding. Everybody knows I should eat healthy. First of all, I have a hard time understanding, well, what exactly is healthy eating? Okay, having a white bread sandwich with, a piece of meat and lettuce and tomato that's non-organic is not healthy. Is it definitely better than having that as opposed to a bag of Lay's potato chips? Well, of course, that's the lesser of the 2 evil. But that is far from optimal healthy eating. And the second thing is people don't really truly understand on biological level, cellular level, why is it important to eat healthy food? Because food has all those compounds, natural compounds, cofactors, like the vitamins, the minerals, antioxidants, and other such things that fuel your body. So when people say you are what you eat, well, it's very true. If you eat garbage, guess what? You're going to damage your cellular function. And that's how people get chronic disease. It's really that simple. So that's why I kind of went off on tangent. Forgive me if it was a bit too much. So the three compounds that are needed for optimal insulin metabolism and ultimately help contribute to cellular health and energy is lipoic acid. A lot of time often is known as alpha lipoic acid, or ALA. This is a naturally occurring compound that is found in plant and animal sources. The body can produce lipoic acid, which the mitochondria utilize to support antioxidant status. However, as the body ages, endogenous produced lipoic acid naturally decreases, among many other things, aka the beauty of aging, which can contribute to cardiometabolic conditions and the dysfunctions that occur with it, such as endothelial dysfunction and other things. But lipoic acid can help to support metabolism, energy production, and a body's natural antioxidant status. Even if you're not in a more advanced stage, if you're 20s, your 30s, if you have metabolic problems, you'll do well if you include alpha lipoic acid. So there's a lot of data that has shown over the years that lipoic acid closely mimics actually the action of insulin. That's why somebody who has a very healthy insulin response and metabolic health, if they take the alpha lipoic acid, they'll get lightheaded most likely, because it naturally will bring down blood sugar and insulin. So if you're truly healthy, don't waste your time taking alpha lipoic acid unless you are probably more advanced age, and at that point they can be actually helpful just on many other levels, not just that. So anyway, alpha lipoic acid is used in numerous things. A lot of studies have been done. The usual dosing is roughly around 400 milligrams a day. It can be anywhere from 200 all the way to 1200. It all depends on what you're dealing with. Just for antioxidant status and overall health maintenance, 300 to 400 milligrams, it should be enough. And it's just a general blanket statement that might not apply to you at all. So keep that in mind. But there's a lot of studies, and one of the most recent ones here, just a 12-week study, investigated the effect of alpha lipoic acid on metabolic parameters. And they looked at glucose, insulin, the HOMAR, which stands for the homeostatic model assessment for insulin resistance, oral glucose tolerance test, OGTT, C-peptide, which that's indication of how your pancreas is producing insulin, and hepatic insulin extraction, which HA is actually a novel assessment for insulin resistance and insight into liver health, by the way. So anyway, when they compare to the baseline measurements, remember, this is not a control study. This is, there's not a control group, average of people. These are the same people that did the test before they took alpha lipoic acid and after. Bottom line, all of those metabolic markers greatly improved. So alpha lipoic acid. There's really good products out there. Again, spend the money to get a high quality one. The other one is carnosine. L-Carnosine is actually used together with Zinc L-Carnosine. That was the previous one we spoke about in the podcast. But carnosine is a compound that it does support healthy inflammation response, antioxidant status, and does help promote healthy blood sugar and insulin metabolism. Not going to go into studies. There's a lot of different ones, but the same similar study markers as the alpha lipoic acids were used, and that too they saw in improvement. The third one is taurine, and that's an amino acid synthesized from the amino acids methionine and cysteine. Taurine is considered a conditionally essential amino acid, which means that humans may need to replenish it in higher amounts when the demand for its use increases, such as psychological and physiological stress. So taurine is found ubiquitously in mammalian tissues, but not plant foods. Okay, and no, there's not this whole myth of you can eat beans and rice and other legumes and this nonsense that you can combine the amino acids. It doesn't work like that. But it's not going to make taurine itself. So like carnosine, taurine will promote glucose and insulin homeostasis by supporting the body's antioxidant status. Systemic reviews and other ones, again, similar markers, what they're using for the taurine, for the carnosine and the alpha lipoic acid, that to show improvement in all levels. So the bottom line is this: for individuals who are affected, especially by metabolic conditions like PCOS, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, which they don't connect. You're going to have insulin resistance to a point if you have cardiovascular disease. And in all reality, in really any and all chronic diseases, supporting glucose and insulin metabolism is a must. It's very important for overall health in general. So lipoic acid, carnosine, and taurine are very effective, but they're only three of the numerous vitamins, minerals, and other compounds that are required to support healthy cellular metabolism. That is why nutrition reigns supreme. Fix your nutrition. We're always going to come back to that. Okay, you're not going to be able to supplement yourself out of a bad diet. So anyway, but these three compounds will support healthy insulin metabolism, especially if you already have a healthy insulin metabolism, and supporting antioxidant status and healthy metabolic homeostasis in general. And there's always more research needed, obviously, to understand the full scope. But from clinical practice, from my personal experience, from my practice, these are very, very good nutrients to plug in and to take advantage of. They're not expensive. They're readily available, and that's something that you can do now to be able to control insulin and blood sugar. So remember, the hallmark of any chronic disease is going to involve, among other things, insulin resistance. And ultimately, everything that I talked about today is going to help with that. If you don't fix your diet, again, you will not reverse your chronic disease. I guarantee you that. But if you improve your diet at least and use those nutrients for extra support, you definitely make a big gain in addressing your chronic disease of whatever that might be. Again, especially when it comes to type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and so forth. But if you guys have any questions, reach out to me. I will give you direct links, either from Amazon or other companies, or my store if I have it, obviously. And if you guys want to, get those, give it a try. So we went overboard today, unfortunately, and there's a lot of information to cover. So we are going to save the GLP-1 protocol support 1 and 2 for next time. It'll be exciting because the GLP-1 phase 1 protocol, it's a clinical protocol that I use for individuals that currently take GLP-1 agonist medications. And the phase 2 protocol is again clinical protocol for maintenance after discontinuing GLP-1 medications. So stay tuned for next podcast on that. It should be coming up soon. And hope you guys have a great new year. Remember your health goals. Let's start working on those aggressively. Health, I definitely believe, is your greatest wealth, here on earth. And if you don't have that, I don't believe you have much else. So reach out to us if you guys have any problems. If you know somebody who is struggling with chronic issues that they seem cannot address, or they keep getting run around by doctors, or whatever the case might be, reach out to us. Also, if you are interested in, addressing, healthy weight and body composition in a healthy, sustainable, long-term, natural way, reach out to us. We can definitely help you with that. And also, again, after the next webinar, podcast, you have a better understanding. But if you are using GLP agonist medications or are about to, and or have stopped, reach out to us. There's some really good support to be able to kind of ride on that wave that you have, hopefully accomplished weight loss wise with those medications. We can definitely support you and make a big difference for your overall health. Well, thank you. That was it for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and stay healthy.
Thank you for your valuable time and for listening to the Your Health Reclaimed podcast with Dr. PND. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and share this episode with a person you know it can help. If we can help you in any way, or you would like to connect with Dr. PND, please visit drpnd.com. That's drpnd.com.